Hello everybody and welcome back to Potluck Economics. I have missed making videos, I gotta tell you the truth. It has been just a little bit of time since my last video, but I'm excited to jump back into it and get on a more daily routine and get back into some cool educational videos and teach you guys some stuff about trading and how to program a little bit. This video in particular is going to be specifically on how to integrate and work with the Alpha Vantage API. So the Alpha Vantage API is a really powerful API that we can connect to build out really cool applications. So I'll kind of show what I've built in the past. This one that we're going to be building out is going to be a Dash Plotly application, which is basically a Python application with really in-depth graphing mechanics. Dash is one of the most advanced graphing mechanics that you can use to build out, cool graphs and dashboards for people to use. And that's what we're really going to be doing with this. And we're going to start with something simple, but the really cool thing about this is we're going to create something that will update. So as we provide new information to this app, we will be able to fetch new information to it. And I'll show you guys the basis for gathering information, filtering out, and making it into something useful in a production grade application, a small one at least. And the cool thing about Dash is it can be used in correlation to Flask applications or to Django, and you can basically host it, that way. So to kind of give you an idea, let me just jump into my application, and I can kind of show you what I have built with Dash and Plotly in the past. So for example, this is a Dash application that I built on my own site, cryptopotluck.com. You need an account to get to it, but what it really provides is it provides a heat map on the top, and then on the lower end it provides a bubble graph for the volume. So basically, as new orders come in, we can see the orders take place and the size that these orders are, as far as how big they are. So you can see if we have a bunch of sell side, as you can see we have big bubbles here, it's going to be hard to break that, and now that it just disappeared, we might have an opening to go up. And you can also look at the heat graph, because let me see another one that might be better at illustrating it. We'll try Neo BTC and see what happens. So for Neo BTC, yeah, we can see that we have different volumes. So if I zoom in a little bit, we have the candles, but then if you zoom in, we can also see that I've created heat graphs to kind of show the volume. So the higher the volume means that there's more trades taking place. So this is just, one way that you can create really cool graphs and dashboards, with Plotly and Dash. So with that and with everything said, if we're going to start this video out right, I want to give you guys some advice. Whenever I am learning how to program, it is kind of complicated because it's hard to use up all your real estate appropriately, to watch the video, program alongside, and then to kind of take notes if you are into that. So what I would offer is Opera. I've started to use this, and this is a really cool tool that a lot of people really don't know about. It is completely free. You can get on to it by just going to opera.com, and the cool benefit of Opera, in my opinion, is whenever it comes to tutorial videos or YouTube videos. So for me, for example, this is a tutorial video of mine. You have the ability to press that button, and it pins itself on the top of your screen. So for example, as you can see here, we can jump into coding, and I can easily set this up, and you can resize it too, and you can create a little area for you to watch the video and code along. So this is just something that I would like to suggest to you guys while you're watching this video. This might be useful for this video, this tutorial video, or any future tutorial videos that you're going to be jumping down that rabbit hole to learn how to program. So anyway, with that done, let's kind of dive into Alpha Vantage. So like I said, Alpha Vantage is a really powerful API. We have a bunch of different indicators that we can pull on, and we can basically fetch stocks, forex trading, cryptocurrency, and then all of these wonderful indicators. In this video, we're only going to be pulling one indicator, and then we're also going to be pulling, the stock information on any asset that we want. So I will include that in the description down below, this page right here, which is interesting, gives a lot of information. Also the GitHub repo, which is very useful because it gives a lot of information on how to set everything up. A pip install Alpha Vantage, really easy to do. So in your terminal, just pip install it into your virtual environment, and then it kind of gives you some usage on how to really set everything up. So with that, the first step is to kind of create a data frame for us to kind of organize how we're going to be pulling this information and combining it for us to use with setting it up with a graph. And that's the first thing that you want to do whenever you're working within any API, is you want to gather the information, clean the information, and then set it up to be implemented within your graph. So that's going to be the method that we're going to be going about it. So the first thing that I want to dive into is setting up the data frame for this project. So like I said, if you haven't yet, I would do a pip install pandas. So in the terminal down below, as you can see here, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger for you guys. So what I would do is I would do pip install pandas. As you can see, I'm already going to have it required. And then I also do pip install alpha underscore Vantage, just like that. And as you can see, I already have that one done. Cool. So now we can kind of set it up. So in order to do this, I like to set up, this type of stuff so I can fetch more than one thing. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to set up the application to ask, what do we want to search? So if we're going to be gathering a lot of information, we'll just say that the stock is going to equal, and then we will do an input. And the input is just basically going to ask, what stock do you want? Question mark, and then we'll just do a colon and we'll do a space. So whenever we get asked this, and I guess I could go over here and we can kind of run it to see what happens. And it says, hey, what stock do you want? And then we can type in whatever. So that's easy enough. The other thing that I also want to point out is I've created a file named keys. And just to show you how I've done that is whenever, because this is also important if we're going to be doing this real quick, let me just dive back into Alpha Vantage. So on Alpha Vantage, at the very top on this page, Alpha Vantage .co documentation, claim your free API key. So to connect to it, you need your API key. So just basically say what you're doing here. Give your information, and then get a free API key. And basically it'll give you a string that you can connect to. So whenever you are working with API keys and secret keys or anything like that, it's always good practice to not include it directly in your code. So the way I go about it is I just create a new Python file. So I'll just say key1.py, and then I could just do API, and then key is going to equal a string. And in the string, I would paste directly the API key that was given to us by Alpha Vantage over here. So anyway, once that is done, we can dive back into the Alpha Vantage, and what we're going to be doing is we're going to be adding this. So I do like to create a little bit of space, so I'm just going to do a print new line. That's all that is going to do, and then we're going to basically set up the function. So the function is going to be def, and then we're just going to make this this fetch. We're going to specifically try to gather the RSI and the price action revolved around a specific stock, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to do RSI underscore data frame, okay? And we're going to provide a criteria, and the criteria that we're going to provide is going to be stock. I completely just noticed I messed that up. Stock is going to equal stock. All right, so that's all we're going to be doing is we're going to be passing that criteria in. So whenever anybody implements this stock, it's going to be put in here, and we can use it within this function. So that's all we're really setting up here. So for the API key, this is where we're going to add this in. Is we're going to do API underscore key is going to equal, and we imported it in up here. So what I did is, because it's in the same directory as documentation right here, as we can see, it goes down into section dash, and then Alpha Vantage, and we also have keys, right? So all I did was I did from docs, and we could also do it for the other one, just kind of an example. So from docs dot section, and then we want to import key. So, or key1, or whatever you named your key, and that's where we put our API key. All right, so once we have that, we can go over here, and we could do key, and we could do .api key. So that's all that equals is API key equals key.api key. So we're just bringing it in. The next thing that we're going to need for Alpha Vantage is we need to get our time period. So for this, we will create the time period to be 60 seconds. So that's going to be 1 minute because you are limited to how many times you can fetch from this API key every minute. You can pay to get more fetches per minute. But for us, because we're just going to be using the demonstration account, we are limited to, I think it's 3 to 5 fetches per minute. So that's all we're going to be really using. And that's why we're kind of creating a kind of long period for us to fetch new stuff. So anyway, the next thing that we're going to need is we're going to need to set up the API key. And to do this, we just create this TS variable, and we're going to equal it to a time series. And this time series is going to have the key. And this is basically allowing us to connect. So we're going to reference this API key right here and bring it in so that we have access to Alpha Vantage. So we're just going to say API key. And then the output format is we want to format it with pandas. So if you don't know pandas, I have a few tutorial videos on my YouTube channel kind of talking about some of the basics involved with pandas. But pandas is a really useful data frame for structuring out the information that you're going to be using. And it's kind of like a table so that you can really dive into different areas, and it's just very organized versus lists. So that's why we're going to be exporting it, and it's what we're really going to be using to connect our information to our dashboard. So that's what we're going to be doing. Then we get to actually pull on the individual stock. So all this TS variable is doing is it's letting us connect to the API. So the next thing that we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing data underscore TS is going to equal TS dot get underscore, and as you can see, it's already showing up intraday. So basically what we're going to be pulling on is going to be the 1 minute stock of a particular asset. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to reference what we are pulling from up above, which is going to be this variable, which we're asking from up here. So whenever we are trying to call on this, we're going to do the key is going to, or actually we don't need a key, my bad. So we're going to do stock dot upper. So this way, the reason why I'm adding the dot upper is to make sure that we are capitalizing the asset. So whenever we are calling the symbol, so for example, FB is Facebook, right? On the stock market, we're automatically making it uppercase with the upper function. Other than that, we will do interval, and the interval is going to be a string of 1 minute. And then the output size is going to be a string of full. And that just means that we want the full list of information. So with that said, we can now start pulling on the RSI. So the interesting thing is whenever we are working within this, we have two different things that we need to focus on, right? So if we're trying, the cool thing that we're going to be doing is we're going to be combining getting the price action and combining it with getting it the indicator and combining the two, right? So there is a formula, and I guess I can dive up here to kind of show you that. There is a formula, and this is basically grabbing Google, right? And this just gives the information on Google. And if we scroll down a little bit farther, we can see that there is technical indicators, and technical indicators has their own method. So it's TI and TS, and basically they do two different things where you're able to gather with TI, you're able to gather indicators, and TS, you can actually gather the time series information. So we have to combine these two, and that's what we're really going to be setting up to do. And this kind of does a really good job of explaining that. So what we're going to be doing here is I will just do indicator to kind of label what we're doing here. So we'll do a TI equals technical indicators. And the reason why we're able to pull that in is because we imported it up here. And what we will do is we'll do the key is going to equal, and we can just do API key again. And then we will do output format is going to equal pandas. Cool, we're making progress. Then we can actually start getting the information. So in order to do this, we will do data TI, and then we'll do a comma, and we'll do metadata TI, and that's going to equal ti.get, and we want the RSI. So that's what I'm going to be doing. You have a bunch of different indicators that you can dive into. Like I said, if you just do get, you can see the whole list of different indicators. But just for this video, we're just going to stick with RSI, and we get to actually put in the symbol. So what symbol do we want? And we're just going to copy what we did up here because we're trying to pull this symbol that we're asking for, and we're going to reference it here. So we're just going to do stock dot upper. And the next thing is going to be the interval. We want the intervals to match. That makes it useful. So we'll do 1 minute. And then we'll do the time period. And then we'll make that period. And then we want series type. And then we want that to just be focused on the close. So you could also do open, or you could do low or high or whatever you want on that. So with all of that said, now we can actually get into the data frame things. So in order to get the data frames set up, we'll be printing this out a lot along the way. So df equals, we'll just start with the data ts. So data ts, right? So now all I'm going to do, and like I said, I want to kind of show how this is taking place. So I'm going to be printing this out a lot, and then I'm going to do return print and then data frame. And we're going to be doing a lot of prints along the way just so you can kind of get an idea of what's going on. And then all we really want to do is we want to, after all this is done, is we're just going to call this function, right? So I'm going to rerun this, and it's going to say what stock do you want. We're just going to do Facebook, and we're going to give it a little bit, and we're going to see what happens. Well, bam. So what we get here is going to be the data frame. There are a few issues which I will highlight to you as we go along, but this is what we need, right? So as you can see, all we're really gathering from this data frame equals TS is we're only getting the price action. We aren't actually getting the RSI. I'll show you what the RSI looks like in a second. But another thing to also note is we have parentheses around it. So if we want to get rid of these, and this is what we have to do to actually connect everything, we are going to do this. So we're going to do this, and we want to make sure that we're only sticking with the period. So we're going to do period, which we're referencing up above, and we only want to do everything past that. So what do we get after we make these few alterations is, if I do Facebook again, we can see that now the parentheses are gone, and then we have a clean data frame that goes all the way down, for the 60 seconds and everything works. And it was working before, but now it's, like I said, you'll see why this is useful later on. So now we can dive into setting up. Let's print out data ti so that we can kind of see what that shows. And we'll print them both out in a second, and we'll see the comparison. So data ti. So now we are calling on the RSI. So if we do FB again, we can dive into it and see what we get. All right, so this is the RSI. So now we have two different data frames that we can kind of look at, and our goal is to combine the two. So there is something interesting that we kind of need to look at, right? So let's look at the date, right? And this is something that took me a little bit to figure out, but we have the date that is 10/31/00, right? So if we dive into the other data frame one more time, you'll see why this is important. We could see, once we pull it up again, this one actually matches. That's interesting. Last time I was having issues with it not matching, but I'll show you how I end up fixing that. But anyway, let's just continue down the rabbit hole. So what we're going to be doing is we want to set up the index. So I'll see what happens here. df.index, and we can get rid of that, equals pd. And then we're going to be calling on the index. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be cutting off these last, because I don't know, with some of the indicators, I was having issues where some of the indicators, they only showed 1031 and they didn't have the 00 at the end. So whenever we combine the two, I'll see if it happens. So I'll try to combine the two without this, and we'll see what happens, and then we'll come back to it, okay? So I'm just going to leave that for that right now. Okay. So df2 is going to be our second data frame, which is going to be our RSI. df2 is going to equal data underscore ti. So now what we want to do is we want to combine these two. The simple way to do that is going to be total underscore df is going to equal pd.concat, and concat is basically to combine data frames, and we want to combine df and we want to combine df2. And we want to make sure that the axis is the same. So axis is going to equal 1, which means that we're going to be lining up the rows so that they match. And then we want to sort it so that they are the same. So we're going to do sort equals true. And all this is really doing is matching the time series from this with the time series from RSI. So now with this said and done, we could see if we could print out total data frame and see if they were able to combine. So let's give this another shot and let's see if everything works. Facebook, and it worked. Cool. So we don't even need that other one. I will include this just in case you guys come across the issue, because I was having the issue earlier. If, for example, they don't line up right away, I would definitely look at the index. See if there's a difference between the two indexes. Whenever I was doing it, for some odd reason, it was showing, only for the price action, it would cut it off here. Where for the RSI, it added the .00. So the way that I went around this to fix this problem, right now we're not having the problem, so I don't know if it's something with the API, but if you do come across this problem and the indexes don't match, see why they're not matching. So one way that I was able to solve this problem, where one had these three numbers and then the other one didn't, is I created a map function. So I did map, and then I did lambda, and I did x, and then this x is going to equal a string of x, and basically all I'm doing here is we're just going to be cutting the last 3 digits so that they are able to match, and that's just of the index. And I did df.index. So right now, this would probably break it because, like I said, they are matching right now. I'm just going to run it and see what happens. Facebook, and no, it doesn't. So it works too. So both work, and as you can see, we don't have the .00. So it's all about preference. Because we're working off of the 1 minute, you really don't need that .00 because we're not working within the second time frame. So that's another method that you guys can do if you end up coming across an issue where they won't connect, but we are done on this end. So now we can actually dive into the graphing mechanic of trying to correlate all this information into a interactive graph. And that's whenever we're going to move into Dash, and we're going to do that in the next video.